So hello everybody, and I hope everyone is well. First of all, let me apologize. I got stuck in work last week, and I unfortunately couldn't come. But I wanted to cover some concepts from chapter 27, and we'll go over them again in class. But I just wanted to make a video for everybody, and being that there's like about almost 90 slides. What I'll do is I'll put it in chunks because this whole file would be too large, so I'll do it in like maybe 15 or 20-minute chunks. All right. So this chapter focuses on short-term financing needs. A lot of times companies have short-term cash needs, and they'll either have cash surpluses or they'll have deficits. So for instance, let's say Home Depot, now they're gearing up for the winter, so they'll be buying a lot of winter items like such as rock salt and snow throwers. And what they'll be doing is they may need a short-term loan to buy all these items. This is a little different than what they normally carry in the year. So we're going to be looking at short-term items here. And so we'll look at this example here. And basically here is a company that does snowboards, right? And they anticipate in the next year after 2021 that their sales are going to grow, right, by 10% to 20 million. And its total net income will be almost 2 million, 1,950,000. So assuming the sales and production will occur uniformly throughout the year, management's forecast of its quarterly net income and statement of cash flows for 2022 is going to be shown on the next slide. So here you can see their income statement, right? It's projected, their projected income statement, and here's the cash flow statement. And so here's the cash from operating, investing, and financing. Here's the three portions of the cash flow statement. And here's a very small income statement. You can see their net income each year forecasted remained constant, 488,000 a year. And basically that gets pulled down over here, right, for the statement of cash flows. You see that comes down. And then basically the depreciation comes off of items. You'll notice the depreciation and capital expenditures here are a wash, right? You notice this is negative and this is positive, right? All right, and here is the accounts receivable. The accounts payable is over here. You'll notice that the change in net working capital is negative over here, and it doesn't change. And there's basically no change for the next 3 years. Okay, so all this information gets pulled down here. We have 5,988, and we subtract this, and we add 48. And we end up with cash from operating activities over here. And it remains constant over here of 988. These get pulled down. Okay, so and when we include the capital expenditures, you'll notice that the cash from investing reflects that, right? And that's negative. So when we take that off, we ended up with what cash we have left here. This is positive, right? You'll see that, right? 899 minus 500 is 399, and this is 488, and this is 488, and so this remained constant at 488, right? Changing cash and equivalents, mostly because the depreciation and the capital expenditures were a wash. All right, so And that's all reflected here, right? Their quarterly net income was $488,000. The capital expenditures are equal to the depreciation, and so on and so on. Whoops, sorry about that. So based on these projections, right, Springfield is going to accumulate excess cash, as we saw. If we go back a little bit, you'll notice they've got excess cash each year, right? It's positive. It's positive. So the good news is, if they think it's going to be long term, they could reduce the surplus, right, and do something with it, either reinvest it in the company, or give a dividend, or repurchase shares, or something, something of that sort, right? Or just retain the earnings to grow the company. So we could do that. So let me, I had to enable that. All right, so let's go on here. So basically, short-term financing, and a lot of us, even we need short-term financing, right? But we save money for our short-term financing for our bills, right? And companies have seasonalities. Like I mentioned, Home Depot will have a seasonality, right? And they'll have a problem with that. And sometimes there's negative cash flow shocks, and sometimes there's positive cash flow shocks, right? Sometimes we have to borrow money from banks, or from relatives, or whatever, but companies have similar problems too. And again, sales will be seasonal. So Home Depot will have summer sales where they'll be selling grills and all kinds of gardening equipment, and they may need short-term cash for that. And then in the winter they have, as I mentioned, a lot of winter stuff they'll be selling, shovels, and they have to stock up on that. So maybe sometimes they may need cash for that. Either way. So here you can see seasonality sales for three different types of companies: sporting goods and hobbies, and department stores, and building materials and gardens. Now you'll notice for gardens, you'll notice it pretty much is flat, but then in the beginning of the spring, the building materials goes up because of building, and then it drops off. But you'll notice near the Christmas season, department stores and sporting goods and hobby stores really shoot up, right? You can see that. So sales go up, so does cash. Cash is needed. So in the previous example we did, right, it was assumed that sales occurred uniformly throughout the year. Now we're going to relax that assumption and assume that 20% of sales occur during the first quarter, 10% during each of the second and third quarters, and 60% during the fourth quarter. So the new forecasted statement of cash flows is shown on the following slide. So it's going to be assumed that production occurs uniformly throughout the year. So here's the 4 quarters, okay? And I think I made a mistake and I said 4 years when I went back. Let me just go back for a minute. Yeah, these are 4 quarters. I'm sorry about that, not 4 years. So you can see they're looking at each quarter of 2022. But now sales are going to vary, and you can see how sales are varying here, right? Here's sales varying, and the cost of goods sold is varying, and everything now is this is more realistic, right? And you can see now the net income will change. The depreciation is a little different. It's constant here, but different here. And so the statement of cash flows now reflects similar things. We pull down the net income here, and here's the depreciation. You notice we're putting the depreciation back on here, right? Because it's a non-cash charge. It's taken off here to reduce taxes, as you can see, but then it's put back on here to reflect how much cash you're really earning. Okay. So, and you can see changes in working capital now are varying, right? There's all kinds of different changes in working capital here. Here's the accounts receivable, and here's the accounts payable. So here's the cash from operating activities, which is reflected up here. And here is the cash from the investment activities. I keep dragging that. Sorry about that. And here is the cash from the financing activities. And you'll notice in a more realistic example, there's a positive cash flow, and then there's 2 quarters where there's negative cash flows that they have to borrow, and the 4th quarter there's a positive cash flow. Probably because of this increased sales, as you notice around the holiday. You notice the increased sales. All right, so although net income is unchanged from the original forecast, seasonal sales, there's some dramatic swings in short-term cash flows, as we saw. All right, so I'm going to make a part 2, and I'll send this one to you. All right.